Well, he's like that on the weekend. Forget it.
Yeah,
Come
you
weekend
can't-
time, he doesn't stop
Xavier
moving.
does not
And he
stop.
drives my mom crazy. Because my mom just wants to kind of like relax a little bit. And my dad's everywhere doing this, doing that. And he's making the wash. And my mom's like, stop it. Stop it. And then she's like, I can't stand him. I can't stand him. Doesn't stop moving. And that's why
He's full of
she likes
energy.
during the summer because then he'll go to his garden and just spend
And
all
he
day.
just-
But then every once in a while she'll be like, where's your father? I haven't seen him all day. He comes home on the weekend and he goes to the garden for 10 hours.
That's exactly. He's
He's
there
from like 8 in the morning to like 6 at night.
He is always full of energy.
Yeah.
There you go.
If my dad spends 2 hours with my mom, oh no, it's too much. Then
Oh.
if he spends 8 hours away, oh no, I didn't see him.
No. That's
I know, I'm only teasing.
But we got a great one lined up for you today. We're going to be joined shortly in the show by Shannon Miller from 360 Health and Wellness. We'll have a little finance topic later in the show. We'll have a little UVA talk. They haven't lost since Michael and I started mentioning how they're doing on the show.
I'm
so
telling you,
we're gonna keep
Alex,
it up.
you don't believe me, but Tony Bennett listens. He said, wait a second.
You think he's a watcher?
Xavier
of
and Michael.
Yana?
Absolutely. I'm telling you, he's probably one of those guys that like he probably uses like those change IP addresses. So if we get like one of those
a
foreign,
VPN watcher.
yeah. So if we get foreign, it's actually Tony Bennett watching. He just doesn't want us to know it.
Yeah, if you have a viewer from Japan, it's like
Exactly.
it's been
The one from
rerouted.
Africa, remember?
Yeah,
When
it's
he
been
was-
rerouted 5 times
Exactly.
so that you can't tell that it's from Charlottesville.
Exactly.
That would be nice.
This way we can't.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Michael. We're very excited to have you joining us this morning on a it's not as cold as it has
No,
been.
I think people are getting worried that we're getting through the fall spring because I think this weekend they said like in the 60s.
Okay.
So a lot of people were kind of worried like we're getting the fall spring because then by next week or 2 weeks
It'll
from now it'll be
drop,
like
like,
we'll get
27,
snow.
yeah.
We'll get like 3 inches of snow. I'm really like no. And the only thing I always worry about this time of year is the plants. Because I know some trees, if they get warm weather, they begin to
bud,
start
the sap
budding.
flows.
Exactly, and then
then
what
it
you get
freezes.
worried is that you get hit by real cold frost, and then it can kill the tree.
kill the tree, yeah.
We've experienced that. We had a beloved peach tree that died because of it.
It was a little too early. So
Yeah.
You don't want to be over aggressive.
No.
You need to manage your risk appropriately.
Ooh, feel like we should bring that back later
I think we will come around to that later.
instead of a peach tree, a money tree. Your
Money tree. There you go. There you go. So we got a great show lined up for everyone this morning. We're going to be joined shortly in the show by Shannon Miller. She's the founder and owner of 360 Health and Wellness. Later, Michael and I will talk some finance. As always, love being here on the Out of Seville Network. A couple thanks, of course, to our presenter, Emergent Financial Services, as well as our great partners at Credit Sirius Insurance, Matias Yon Realty, Castle Hill Cider, Forward Adelante. Appreciate, of course, all of you joining us. We're already being joined by Monica Miller from Montana joining us this morning. So our viewers,
Monica is
from all
becoming our
around-
#1 fan.
Monica
She
is
watches
a great viewer. Great viewer. Always has
I
some
know.
questions and comments.
I feel like, God forbid, Monica lost internet. I feel like she would just drive in town just to make sure she watched the
To
show.
watch the show. But we appreciate all of you, no matter how far you are
Exactly.
watching from.
Across the country.
Last week we had international.
Oh, really?
viewers. We had Spain, New York, possibly Miami, and Montana.
Wow.
And of course Charlottesville.
We're hitting all the points of.
We always get some Charlottesville.
yeah.
Yeah, you got to hit all the major points
Mm-hmm.
in the U.S. So, of course, since we always love to talk a little bit about UVA had some
Yeah,
good
we
wins
like to
again.
touch upon it. Yeah, I mean, they had. I mean, you were telling Xavier the historic victory that they had. I think they held Miami to 38 points.
38 points. It was so. To put in perspective, which I love to see, because the defense, obviously, it's always nice when the defense is back, because that's kind of the calling card of UVA.
You've always been a big defense guy. You say the best
It's-
offense is a good defense.
It's fun too. I mean, I don't know. So maybe some people get bored with good defense, but I like watching good basketball defense because it's just exciting to be like this team is like on pace to be like their lowest points all year. Miami was averaging 80 points a game. We held them to 38 points for the entire game, which was their lowest point total since joining the ACC in 2004, and their lowest points since 1985 when they first reinstated their basketball program.
Wow.
So basically, since they started basketball again, only once have they scored. Only in that very first year when they first had basketball again did they have lower point total than the 38 points they scored the other night.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
So that was a nice. It was a nice win. We've beaten them. I mean, it was no beat. We beat them when we beat Clemson. Mm-hmm. And Clemson then turned around and went and beat UNC.
Yeah, and like you said, their defense has improved because at last time or 3 weeks back when we were talking about it, we were like, listen, the offense is struggling, but you need to have really good defense. That's what made those teams from 2014 to 2019 really good is that it didn't matter whether the offense was having a good day or a bad day, the defense was just going to be great.
Exactly.
So it always gave them a chance to win. And very clearly the offense is not on par with the better teams' offensive outputs like UNC or Duke or maybe Kentucky or Kansas, one of those kinds of teams, those top dogs. They're not on par with that. But if you can have your defense play really solid and really great defense,
gives you a chance.
It gives you a chance. And very clear that's what's been happening because I haven't seen UVA putting the points on the board. I mean, they only won 60-38.
60, they scored 60.
Yeah, I mean, but 60 for us feels a lot. But, I mean, teams average like 75 sometimes.
Well, Miami was averaging 80. And
there you go. So, I mean, yeah.
Teams. So I think it's good. Just also the defense travels. Sometimes on the road, it might be tough to score. But you can always play defense, even on the road. So it was a good week, and I think we've kind of pushed ourselves back into tournament contention.
Yeah, you told me. Yeah, I mean, at this point, you said we're second in the ACC?
Second in the ACC. Jerry was saying apparently we're like first four in, or last four in, like in the last four teams that might make it in if it were today, the selection.
Oh, that's not bad.
Which is not a bad place to be. There's still, we play some good teams on the schedule, but we still play a couple teams that we should beat. But we definitely have a couple tough matches.
And I still think for UVA, a lot of our chances of going into the tournament is going to rely on how we do in the ACC tournament. Because I feel like if we have a good showing that might propel us. It doesn't matter whether we win or not. If we have a good showing, it might propel us.
Yeah, if you get that semifinal.
Exactly.
Which is nice that if you're one of the top four seeds, you get that double bye. So you only have to win
2 games, right? Or 1?
I think you only have to win 1 game to get to the semifinal.
Wow.
If you are... It would be nice. It's nice to win 2 games to get to the final. But I think if you're a top seed, you only have to win 1 game to get to the semifinal.
Yeah, so that should be doable. Yeah, it's still not sure whether we get one of those top 4 seeds. I don't know how the.
Well, to see how it shakes out.
Well, the problem is, remember, the issue is we still got to play UNC and we still got to play Duke. Duke on the road, UNC at home. But those are really 2 very tough teams.
And we only play each of them once, which is
better.
Good and bad, right? Good in the sense you only have to play them once. Bad, you don't have a chance afterwards to catch up again. If you
but I think in this year, I think it's better that we don't play them once. Yeah, and then rather try to beat them in the tournament, ACC tournament. So.
Exactly. So I mean, it's been good. We've been, we'll keep mentioning it.
Exactly.
So far,
we'll stay on top of them because we know Tony Bennett's watching.
They haven't lost in 7 in a row since we had our talk about what's wrong with UVA.
Exactly. Well, we are like we were mentioned before the show. Like we were talking about it. And I'm telling you, Tony Bennett was listening. He said, "Oh man, Alex and Michael are getting on me right now. I got to turn this program around."
Wouldn't want Alex and Michael on your.
No, back. Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to get called out today, mañana.
No, that's for sure. So it's been fun to see. So we've enjoyed it.
It's good to kind of get back in the swing of UVA sports.
Absolutely.
We've had a bit of a lull the past. We had like a peak in 2019 where I think we won the NCAA tournament of basketball. We made the ACC championship in football, if I'm correct. Wasn't that the same year?
Yep. Maybe.
I mean, we hit like an ultimate peak. We had won baseball a few years before, but
won lacrosse.
Yeah, won lacrosse. We've won like 1,000 soccer.
Yeah.
And then since then we've kind of had a bit of a lull. So. Be nice to kind of get back into the national spotlight.
It'll be back. Monica says, good morning. Good morning, Monica. Thanks for watching this morning.
How do you say good morning in German, Alex?
I think it's just Guten Tag.
I thought it was Guten Morgen.
Oh, Guten Morgen. You can do that. You can do either
Monica,
way.
I know better.
You can do either way. You can say good day or good morning.
No, but I said good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, good morning. There you go. You should do it. There you go. That'll do it. I know, disappointing.
We're going to have to report that to... The wife.
The higher-ups.
The wife.
The higher-ups. Alrighty, so I'm excited to jump into today's guest.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. So we're super excited to welcome to the show this morning Shannon Miller. She is the founder and owner of 360 Health and Wellness. Shannon, thanks so much for coming on this morning.
Thanks for coming on, Shannon.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No, it's good to have you on. So for those who haven't met you yet, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you first go down the road of becoming interested in the health and wellness field?
Sure. So I started out, I graduated at Virginia Tech. My initial goal was to be a large animal vet. So that seems kind of silly now that I'm not taking care of animals. But my mentor at the time kind of talked me out of going to vet school, interestingly enough. So then I decided, well, I'm a caring person. I want to take care of people, so why not just do nursing? So I went to Johns Hopkins. I did an accelerated program in nursing there, and then I was a nurse for a good 8 to 9 years before I went back and got my master's for a nurse practitioner. So I've been in healthcare for about 17 years, and the first 8 or 9 of that was in an ER trauma unit in DC.
Wow.
So definitely saw a lot of things there. I learned, that was probably where I learned the most initially in my career, which is why I stayed in the ER for so long. I worked with some amazing nurses, some amazing physicians, and it was such a wonderful environment. The physicians there really wanted you to be autonomous in your care, and they taught you a lot of things. So I'm really grateful for that experience. I went back to get my nurse practitioner just because, I felt like I wanted to do more than what I was doing, and went back to Georgetown and got my master's. And then I kind of thought I was going to go back into the ER because that was kind of what I loved. But I found that after having some children and losing my father to cancer, that ER was a little difficult.
Rough, yeah.
I feel like, some of the things that I could handle before was a little harder for me to do. So I went into family medicine, and I worked at a federally qualified health center in Georgia, which also was a wonderful learning experience. For those that don't know what that is, it's kind of like serves underserved populations, essentially.
So people that might not otherwise have access to healthcare, you trying to help them out.
Exactly. And that was also, like I said, it was a really great experience because I got to learn about different ways to get care for patients and medications for patients. And so I feel like I've taken that with me when I came back to Virginia to work, and worked at Sentara for Martha Jefferson in family medicine for a couple years. And I think what kind of pushed me into what I'm doing now, which is the direct primary care model, is healthcare is just not what it used to be, or, I don't know if it ever really was, maybe way back when, before I was even born. Your physician would go to your house, like the doctor
House calls.
Right, house
exactly.
calls.
Exactly, a horse and carriage.
Yeah, the doctor that maybe helped, birth you in the hospital or in your home or whatever was who took care of you all the time. But that model changed, and I know it's because of a growing population, and then there's just not as many people going into primary care because it's not. There's no glory in primary care, I think is probably the right way to put it. And money, right? I mean, money is part of it. And I always say that we're kind of like the people on the back burner in primary care because we don't bring money to organizations generally. And I think that's frustrating because I get healthcare shouldn't be about money, even though it is. And it's run by insurance. And
insurance, I know we've talked before, is that the way that process works kind of really does force sometimes. I mean, just last week's guest, when he was a doctor, he was saying, in and out.
Yeah.
And there's this pressure to do that because you're spending so much time on insurance.
Yeah. And exactly why I kind of got to this place in my life where I was like, I cannot keep doing what I'm doing. I will burn out. And this is what I love. I love taking care of people. It's just my personality. It's who I am. And it's why I went into medicine. It's why I became a nurse practitioner, was because of that aspect of being able to spend some time with my patients and care for them and listen. And, if you're in a primary care office or as patients, I'm not sure what your experience has been, but it is a revolving door.
It kind of is.
Shuffling or herding cattle is pretty much kind of how I say it. Because you're in and out, and it's not fair. And it's not fair to the providers because we certainly didn't design that method of care. That was insurance.
So tell us a little bit about, what is, for people who don't know, what is the direct primary care model? How's it different?
So I think one thing to say is there's two different, so direct primary care and concierge. I sometimes think they get confused. People are not sure what the difference is, or boutique care. And so direct primary care is just membership-based care. So I am not billing your insurance in addition to your membership dues. You're basically paying a monthly flat rate for the care that you get, no matter how many times you come in, no matter how many times you talk to me. There's no extra there. And there's also services included in that monthly fee, too. I also get discounted lab prices, which are incredibly cheap compared to even with what insurance pays for. Concierge medicine, for the most part, they do monthly memberships as well, but they also double dip and they can bill your insurance. So it's a little bit different. Direct primary care, this whole movement across the country is basically to get back into real care for your patients and not, away from that insurance-based model, so that maybe over time, if enough of us do it, they're going to have to lower their prices.
So you have to be competitive.
Because we're not billing. And so, eventually, again, it's going to take time, and I may be long gone before it happens, but that's the goal, is to get enforce insurance to bring their costs down so people can afford to get care.
So basically, so in other words, people trying to join and say, I want to be part of 360 Health and Wellness in essence, and then for the monthly membership, whenever you need to come in, you come in.
And you don't, and I think that's the other thing, that's the other benefit of the monthly membership versus a normal traditional insurance-based office. Like, I know patients get frustrated because when they call their doctor's office, they just maybe have a question. Well, they're kind of forced to schedule an appointment. There's not really a way to talk to the provider without doing so. And the reason is because we can't bill in an insurance-based model unless you come in or it's a virtual visit. And I think it's frustrating for both of us, the provider and the patient, that's how it has to be, that is the case. And so in direct care, that's completely gone. If you have something that you need to ask me, you can text message me, you can send a message on the patient portal, you can email me. It doesn't have to be a visit. Now, of course, you can visit. There's obviously times where we need to have in-person visits, and we do.
And the nice thing is that you're kind of encouraged to actually make use of what's being provided. Because I know sometimes, you've got, for some insurance, right, you've got a lot of people, I know mine, it's $40, you pay the $40 per visit. So you're always like, is it worth it? And especially sometimes, depending on the purpose of the visit, they don't even cover, the insurance won't even cover that. They'll be like, sorry, this visit was $80 because you weren't sick. It was for travel purposes. You had a question on, should I take any vaccines before going to X country, right? And so you're encouraged, you always second guess yourself. Do I really want to call my doctor because this is going to cost me $40?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's a worry too, because sometimes you may have a problem and you're like, do I really want to call the doctor or go or have to pay this?
You wait till it's so bad.
Exactly. And then sometimes you wait and then the issue becomes even worse. And then you're like, oh, I shouldn't have waited.
Yeah.
But it's interesting what you talk about with the primary care, because I feel like it's partially to establishing a personal connection with your doctor. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't even remember which doctors I've gone to in the past 10 years, but I do remember we used to have a family pediatrician doctor that my brothers and I saw when we were growing up. Till we were, at least I remember till I was 12 years old. I still remember Dr. Penn.
Yeah.
And I still remember him. He was a wonderful older man with glasses. And we had that personal connection. It's like I always knew Dr. Penn. And you just get to know your doctor so well. You actually just feel comfortable. It's like you're going to go see Dr. Penn. It feels like you're just going to see your old grandpa, who's going to, knee and do all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like, you're always kind of tepid to change, we like having the same, what's the word I'm looking for? We like having the constant.
Consistency.
Consistency, that's what I was looking for. So it's like same way you don't want to constantly be having different dentists, you don't want to really have different doctors. You want to have that personal connection where it's like, oh, I know this person, I have a quick question, then I can text them. Or I could just give them a quick call saying, hey, I'm having this pain here. Is this something I have to worry about? And you could be like, nah, you just probably pulled a muscle or you banged it. Something akin to that.
Yeah, and I do think, continuity of care is super important. And when you've got a lot of cooks in the kitchen, it makes it harder to get that patient to have the better care, essentially.
Yeah.
And then part of the other thing that's in my practice, the health and wellness aspect of it, is just I do integrative health too. So that's kind of combining functional, more holistic medicine with traditional medicine.
So what are kind of the range of different services things that you can help people with?
Yeah, so I would say I try to focus on root cause medicine too. So if patients are, have chronic illness, whether it's diabetes, blood pressure, hormones, or thyroid, or any of those things, or chronic fatigue, any of that stuff, most traditional medicine, they don't recognize that there are other ways to manage those types of illnesses, and we just prescribe medications to treat symptoms. And that's not ideal. And I will say that's what I was taught for a long time in traditional medicine. And then I think over time, towards the end, before I kind of moved into this model and before I started doing a lot of studying and doing functional medicine, that is what I was taught. And it got to the point where patients would come in and I knew something was going on with them. I knew something was wrong, but based on the labs, things looked fine. And so then you just end up with this, I'm sorry, the labs are fine, but that patient's still suffering. Yes. So it just kind of was, I got to the point where I was like, there's got to be more. What am I missing? What have I not been taught? And I just started reading. I started seeing things. I was working in a practice, or I am still part-time, and I saw some other ways to manage care, and I just dove in, and I did a functional medicine program, and it's very eye-opening. So I can help people with things like that. If they've gotten nowhere with care before, or they want to look at a different way to treat their chronic illnesses, there's definitely ways to do that. And so what I do is I have my patients come in, we do an intake, we do a 60-minute sit down, let's chat, let's figure it out. If we need to do labs, we do labs, but there's sometimes we don't have to. It's just kind of looking at symptoms and what ways can we change it? Lifestyle, nutrition, should we add supplements, those types of things. And I still do traditional medicine too. Not everybody is on board with natural medicine, but I think there's a happy medium.
There's such a place for both. There are certain things. Yeah. There are certain things that, right, like you said, sometimes the way we've been doing medicine in the West is often just puts a Band-Aid on certain things and doesn't get to underline.
Or give you a pill.
Or a pill, right? Yeah. But there are times when, if you need surgery, you need surgery, right?
Sure.
You're not going to cure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I have a broken arm, there's no
Get
point.
Get the leeches on it.
Yeah, no leeches, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's the combination sometimes. It's not overlooking one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a place for traditional medicine, just like you mentioned, like surgeries, and there's cardiac care and pulmonary care, and certain things that, of course, we can't always 100% make better. But there is more to our health and our wellness than just traditional medicine and prescribing the medications, because you get side effects from them and they're expensive, and that's the other thing that's frustrating. All these companies make these incredible medications that for some people could save them, but then they can't afford them. So it's a frustrating kind of, it's frustrating.
Well, it's the thing that if you can, like you said, if it's something that can be solved through better nutrition or balancing out something that you're missing, a vitamin that you're missing, or something that you need, or a lifestyle change, then it's better to do that than to put a pill on it that'll have additional side. Like the pill might make the symptom go away, right? The traditional medicine might make the symptom, but then you'll have these other side effects, and you might need to take that for the rest of your life,
right?
Versus a lifestyle change that may not only help that issue, but other issues that you don't know you have.
Exactly. Yes. No. 100%. And I think too, what's important to know is that we live in a society of now, and we always want things to happen now. We want to be fixed now. We want that fatigue to go away now.
Yeah.
And I will say, in functional medicine, when we're doing that approach, it does take longer. So I think it's got to be a person that is committed to changing their lifestyle, because that's what's going to really create that lasting wellness. And I think that's a hard sell sometimes, and it's hard to do. Changing your lifestyle is incredibly hard to do.
That's interesting you mentioned changing lifestyle, because I feel like that's been a pattern I've noticed among people post-pandemic. that have you seen that as well? Like people kind of come in saying, I feel like my life was unhealthy before the pandemic. I'm trying to change that.
Yeah.
Trying to get healthier.
Yeah, no, I definitely think there is quite a movement, and you can see it just through any social media. Like you see people talking about it, and there's more supplement commercials and more push. I feel like to look at some natural, holistic ways to treat. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely up and coming, and I do think some of our younger generations are more in tune to it. I think it's harder the older that we are, unless you were already using that kind of modality. It's hard to change people.
Yeah,
it's hard
to change the way you think if you've been raised by that. In fact, Kevin Higgins, thanks for watching the show. Audience question here. It's actually kind of related to what you just asked. He said, "Did you have to make any pivots in your approach during or post-pandemic because of how people's lifestyles may have changed? Maybe they didn't go to the doctor for a while, so things kind of built up. Or were there any changes? Because he said it seems to him that recovery and reintroduction to what life is still a work in progress for some people."
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a kind of a tough question. I mean, I think trying to come back into medicine and into normal care post-pandemic, I mean, I definitely feel like I was trying to push a little more of lifestyle intervention because I think as we learned through COVID, how the virus works on the body and what things we can do to help ourselves kind of recover, prevent, illnesses like that. It definitely, I do think it allowed for a door to be open into introducing these other types of care and methods and things like that.
Yeah.
But
maybe open people's eyes a little, just, but we open people's eyes to like, there are things you do to be healthy that protect you from numerous viruses, and sometimes you get accustomed to like, he just got he got a bad flu and it got it, but maybe there are things you can do so that if you get the flu, you're not as susceptible to it because you're in a generally healthier state. And sometimes it takes a new virus to come along and say, I probably should have been doing that for the flu and for other things to prevent for flus, colds, RSV, right? All these things that can put you in a bad spot if you get a bad one. But sometimes it takes something unexpected to kind of say, I wonder if I should have been doing that all along. Yeah.
And I do think it opened up a lot. I mean, people didn't have anything to do, so they were home and they were reading. And it was like this, Google like thing where everybody was just reading all sorts of things. And, there is a problem, I think, in our country with autoimmune disease and cancer and just things that are just like steadily increasing, which is it should be alarming for everybody because, the answer or what the question rather is why. Yeah. I mean, if you look at our information compared to other, countries, they don't always, they're not the same in terms of what's causing their death versus what's causing death in America. And that's linked to a lot of things, but a lot of it is our food system, our nutrition, where our food comes from and how it's, harvested, those types of things. Yeah. So whether it's an industrial or organic.
And hence you need the integrative part, the functional medicine part, because sometimes traditional medicine can't solve that issue. It doesn't have there isn't a pill that will undo the lack of nutrition in your food supply. Right. You need, there are other methods that you have to work on for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, all of this is wonderful, but it is costly. And I think that's the tough part. I try to do my best to make sure that I'm affordable for patients so that access to care is there. That's really important to me. But it's a long process for myself when I create plans for patients. And it's difficult for them to make some of the lifestyle changes, especially if they don't have the income to support it, because organic foods, organic grass-fed meats, they are not cheap. And
so do you work with people also to see in other words, what would be the ideal plan for them, but also what's a plan that maybe is attainable for now for their budget?
Yeah, I mean, you have to meet a patient where they are. And I think that's an important concept, because sometimes I think people will pay all this money to see providers that are similar, and then they're told all this information, but they're like, I can't do it. So I think if we're kind of substituting some things here and there, you're going to have some benefit. And so I just try to encourage them from my standpoint, what things can we change? What things can we substitute right now and do that, So.
And kind of have, I guess, like a plan for, if your situation changes or your budget improves, here are things to be thinking about that you can make changes in the future.
Yeah.
But so kind of like, here's what you can do now and here's what you can do later.
Yep, absolutely. And then, I think too, what I have found with patients that maybe struggle with the nutrition change is maybe they can't afford it or they can make some of the changes, but they don't know how to cook the foods. And so that's been on my brain for a while. Like, how can we help or give this information to the public so that they can cook the foods and make them taste good? Because I get that a lot. Well, this doesn't taste good. Well, it could. It could.
You gotta learn how to cook, but
right. So, I think that there are a lot of places that we could provide services like that. Just showing people how to cook the food, I think would make a huge
Cooking
difference.
classes.
Yeah.
It makes complete
I am one
sense.
person, but it is one of the things I want to do.
Absolutely. What's it from our audience? Thank you, Rosaleda Todaro, watching this morning. Thank you so much. Our audience is always interested. What's it like being an entrepreneur as well? Like kind of taking that leap and like having your own business.
Scary and stressful.
Yeah.
I wish I had better words.
No, that's 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs will tell you that.
Yeah. I don't know what I expected. I knew it would be hard, but I just felt like it was something I needed to do.
Yeah.
No matter what I was doing before, there was something missing, and I needed to have the ability to try it. If I fail, I fail, but I'm not. I want to do the best I can to make it successful. And I think that the direct primary care concept is harder here. I'm out in Zion Crossroads, so it's a little bit more rural. So I think that concept is difficult for folks because they don't understand, well, I have insurance, why should I pay a monthly fee? But my patients would tell you it's worth it. So, it's taking a leap for patients too, to see somebody and trust somebody. And I do think that once patients come in and they talk to me, sometimes they leave in tears. They're happy. Like somebody sat down and listened to what they had to say and heard them, and they feel validated in what they've been feeling. And I think that's important.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's thinking of insurance and healthcare in a new way. And I really like that. I like that that notion that you have to
I like the
away.
personal connection you're trying to sell as well.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's important to have. Like you as a patient, you want to trust your doctor. You don't just want here's your doctor for the day. You're like, I don't know this person, but you want to create that connection. This way, it builds that trust. It's like, hey, listen, this is a problem that I have. What can we do to solve it?
Right.
And I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Well, Shannon, this has been an absolute pleasure. Really
Thank you.
appreciate you coming on today. If people are interested in like, okay, I want to find out more, I want to schedule something, I want to talk to Shannon, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So my office is located in Zion Crossroads. It's got a Troy address, but it's kind of right in that Zion, Troy area. So I have a website, www.360health-wellness.com.
Super easy.
If you want to book an appointment, the easiest way is to go to the webpage. There's a Book Now button. Easily allows you to see my schedule and do self-scheduling. My phone number is 540-517-7170. You can call or text it, and I can help get you set up as well. I didn't mention I do also IV therapy, hormone management, and some nutrition and weight loss stuff as well. So kind of it's all encompassing.
Very holistic.
Yeah.
Way of looking at it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Wonderful.
Well, be sure to check it out, www.360, the numbers, 360health-wellness.com. Shannon, thank you so much for coming on. Really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it. I've
much.
learned a lot,
Appreciate
and I'm glad to know you're here doing what you're doing.
Great. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All righty. So as we transition here to our...
That was good to hear, and I like the personal aspect of even just now kind of having like your own personal doctor, kind of being, just for me, I always like that approach of, you and I always talk about that personal touch. And sometimes you get, even myself, like I'm like, I don't feel like going to the doctor because it's like, I don't know what doctor's going to show up on mine.
And kind of, in some ways, let's face it, the way things have worked is you're now always, it's almost like you always have a third person in the room with you and the doctor, which is the insurance company. And it's hard to get them out of the picture. because so much is connected with that. And it's funny, as a financial person, I always kind of bristle at the way health insurance is done, because like insurance, if you think about life insurance, right? You don't get life insurance so that if you stub your toe, something happens, or if you lose your job, you get paid something. You get life insurance to insure against a catastrophic event, which is you die, right? With home insurance, for the most part, do you get home insurance so that if you spill wine on your couch, you can use home insurance to get a new couch? No, you get home insurance for the most part so that if you lose your whole house and everything in it, you have something to insure you against this catastrophe. But the funny thing is, with the way healthcare and health insurance work, right? We've embedded it so much that you use health insurance to do a checkup with your doctor, which is not catastrophic at all. Like, I mean, if I have a catastrophic event happening, you know it. Every time if you ever call like your primary care doctor, your family medicine doctor, right? It literally, if you get the message or like you call them and it's lunch hour, last thing they always say, and it's funny, every time I call it, the same thing, the voicemail says, if this is an emergency, hang up the phone and call the 911. In other words, if you have a catastrophic event, you shouldn't be calling, like, hey, can I do a checkup? You know, I'm bleeding profusely from my leg.
I think my intestines popped out.
I think I might have severed an artery. Can I come in tomorrow for a checkup? You know, no, you call 911 and go to the emergency room.
Is this something I should be worried about? Could I possibly die within the next 30 minutes?
And yet we've embedded health insurance with that, with the checkup, where it's like, this is not an emergency. I might have a cold. I'm going to have to talk to your health insurance provider to see the stuff. Why? Why is this involved? So it's just interesting how we've done that, and how there may be ways in the future to separate that out so that you have insurance for catastrophic outcomes, but you have a different model for how you interact with your doctor or your nurse practitioner. You know?
Yeah, and health's important because, you know, you only got one body. And sometimes I think the problem is we kind of neglect it until it becomes an issue. And then when it becomes an issue now, it's a lot more work to kind of get yourself back healthy. And then for other people, sometimes they don't even have that opportunity. So it's kind of important to make sure you're healthy and, you know, make sure your body's working as it needs to work.
Yeah. It's funny, sometimes I feel like we treat it worse than we treat other things like our home. Like if you saw like a little water spot in your ceiling, right? You wouldn't be like, I'll wait till it's like a big spot and then I'll call them in to fix. You're like, oh dang, I gotta get that fixed. There must be a leak somewhere. With your body, it's like, it's not working really well.
Listen, I've seen it within ourselves and with other people. Sometimes we even treat our pets better. We're like, oh my gosh, wait a second. You know, our dog woke up and he limped for like 2 seconds. Like, oh, this is emergency. Take him to the vet and you'll pay as much money. And then for us, it's like, I woke up, my leg's crooked, I'm limping. You know, I got to sort this. I'm like, whatever. You know, I'll tough it out. You know, I'll do a deal with it later. All right. Yeah, I'll be all right.
It's amazing how we do certain things, you know, but what can you do? What can you do? It's just, and it's funny, I mean, obviously health is always on the top of that, like, New Year's resolution list. I need to get healthier and stuff. Although this year, number one was a different kind of wellness, which actually financial wellness.
Why did I know you were going to get to that?
I thought I did that pretty well.
You know what's funny? You mentioned that, and I feel like I'm wondering whether that was actually a push, because I know we've been very busy this year with a lot of new people coming in asking, you know, about financial plans and, you know, wondering how to manage money. And, you know, out of curiosity, Alex, like, what are like the most questions that you've been asked? Like, people come in and you say, like, you know, financial advisor, it's like, what can you help me with? What have you been experiencing?
That's a good question. It's true. There's sometimes I think people get a little confused. They walk in like, what do I even ask? If I feel like
I mean, we've had people come in and ask like 500 different things. Some people come in and start asking about mortgage advice. Well, we're not really mortgage people, but luckily Xavier is so knowledgeable in everything that it's like.
But that's something that your financial advisor can help you with. And so I think the key is really what you want to ask your financial advisor is, first off, what are you want to know from them, what are the range of services you're actually looking at? In other words, are you merely going to provide me with a financial plan? Are you only going to help me manage retirement assets? Do you do all of these things together, right? Will you charge for the different aspects, right? I mean, we've had people come in and not realize that, you know, I mean, our first consultation is free. right? They think it's an hourly model. Well, that's something important to know. In other words, it worked out for them because we're not. Like, we're not going to charge you come in for the first time. We're not like being like, all right, $250 an hour.
Yeah,
all
not
right,
like lawyers where it's like, my dad used to talk, he talked 50 minutes about
way
family.
back. Yeah,
and then he had like one question, 10 minutes, and then he got billed for the entire hour.
Yeah, I think he got rid of that lawyer.
Yeah, 350, and he's like, wait, what?
So it's not, but you want to know that, is this something hourly? Is this something that I'm just paying you? Is it all inclusive? So it's important to know first what you're looking at, right? But then also feel free to ask the questions. I mean, a good financial advisor should be able to help you with several things. First off, in other words, not just how should your portfolio be invested, right? Because that's one that I think a lot of people think about, right? Do I have the right investment?
That's the most generic question.
The most generic, right? Your financial advisor should also be able to help you. All right, how much do you need to save to get to this point, right? Do you need, and what's the best way to do that? In other words, you may come out saying, all right, I need to save $500 a month to get to my goal at retirement. To retire when I want to retire, given the things I want to do with retirement, given my current income, given my current expenses. What do I need to do, right? And your financial advisor or a good financial planner, they can help you figure out, okay, what do I need to make any changes in expenses? How much should I save? Where should I save? And that's a key one. Sometimes you might just be like, all right, I just have to save, $500 a month. Well, $500 a month into your 401k is different than $250 into your 401k and $250 into a Roth IRA, is different than $250 into a 401k and $250 into a taxable brokerage account. Those are going to give you three very different outcomes, right? For some people, certain things aren't going to be possible. Like your income may prevent you from putting the money into a Roth IRA, right? In which case, well, you might be better off with a 401k, but what if your work doesn't offer one? Now you might be looking at a combination of a traditional IRA and a brokerage account, right? And those are going to have different tax implications both now and in the future, and they're going to change the numbers. So it's important to make sure when you're having your financial advisor, they should be asking, what types of accounts do you have? How much? What is your income? So you got to be comfortable sharing information, because that's going to go a long way to helping you figure out what is the right plan for me.
And what kind of information would people need to share? Like,
go ahead. So it can vary. Some people are like, we've had people walk in and say, "Here's my tax return from last year." Oh, I don't know where to start, right? But what a good way to start is always, can you actually, and this is good whether you're going to see a financial advisor or not, can you break down your expenses into categories? Because one of the first steps that you're going to have to do to figure out what you need to do is know where your expenses are coming from. In other words, if your idea of your expenses is, this is my credit card bill at the end of the month and I pay it off, think about it, it's going to be hard to make changes. If your financial planner comes back and says, well, you need to cut $50 a month out of your budget, you're like, well, where? I mean, I get a credit card bill at the end of the month.
I think being able to itemize how you and where you spend your money.
And it could be big categories. It could be dining out, travel, groceries, household, exactly. So to know that is going to go a long way, and that's something you can work on even before you go visit a financial advisor, right? You don't want to know how much money do you make. Like, what is your income and what is your income, not just that shows in your paycheck, but what is your gross income, right? Because financial planners are going to take into account state taxes, income taxes, payroll tax, Medicare tax. There's taxes that will eat into your income. When you're making a plan, you got to account for that, because if you sit there and say, well, I'm going to get $3,000 a month, but you're going to have taxes withheld, which means your final paycheck isn't going to be $3,000 a month. It's going to be $2,500. So you can't spend $3,000,
yes.
right? So you need to know.
And if you have to save, you can't spend $2,500 too. So
exactly. So you don't have to be able to share that information. Know that. Know what tax. You don't have to know what tax bracket. You have to know your income. You have to know your expenses. You have to know. You should know things like, what is your mortgage rate?
Yes,
how many
that's a big one. That's a big one. How much you pay per month on mortgage? Any student loans? What are your student loans? How much you pay per month? How long until you pay them off?
What's the balance? How many years are left on this mortgage?
Exactly.
Because you don't want to take into account, if you do a plan, you don't want to know when you stop paying the mortgage. That's a big piece. At that point, that expense goes away. It's not a recurring expense beyond the life of the mortgage. And also, if you have is it a fixed rate mortgage or is it an adjustable rate mortgage? If it's a fixed rate mortgage, it doesn't go up with inflation. Whereas a lot of your other expenses, groceries, you know, if you think about it, if your groceries, rent, and gas, all three of those things are going to change with inflation. If you have a fixed rate mortgage and your mortgage payment is $1,500 a month over a 30-year period, that's not going up with inflation. Your property tax and your home insurance might, but your mortgage, principal and interest, if it has been amortized over 30 years to give you a number, it's not changing. So it's a non-inflationary expense. And it goes in an entirely different category because you don't want to accidentally think that's going up with inflation because it's not.
No.
So you'll think that you're way worse off than you actually are if you were to mistake.
And another important thing too is to talk about mortgages is goals too, because if you want like a new house, you have to kind of say, okay, when would you think about moving in 10 years?
Exactly.
So now you have to start planning. It's like, okay, so at some point you're going to have to get a new mortgage. You know, and then you kind of guess, okay, how much is your house worth now? How much might it be worth in 10 years?
Exactly.
You know, and that's why you also need to update your financial plan as well, because your financial plan today is not going to be the same as it is 3 years from now.
Exactly.
Because inflation could be different, the market could be different.
Think about it. When we ran financial plans for people in 2019, we told them this. We said, look, a financial plan. Xavier likes to call it a living document, right? Things change over time. You might get a new job. Things will change. And when we were running financial plans in 2019, we were remember, inflation at that point was like 2%.
The word was normal, Alex. It was normal.
And we would put into the financial plan, look, we need to have a worst case scenario in here because inflation may not always be 2%. So what we'll do is we'll have that scenario where inflation goes from 3 to 5. Right, and then goes back down to 3, right? And 2 years later, of course, we're calling everybody saying,
it went up to 9.
You got to come back in because you know how we told you we were being aggressive with inflation at 5? It's at 9.
Yeah.
So we need to look at your financial plan. We need to review your financial plan once again, but we need to make some changes here because it's not 5, it's 9.
Yeah.
And that changes because the two biggest impacts on the financial plan is inflation and expenses. Because inflation is how expenses change over time, and it's uncontrollable, and expenses is that which is being changed by inflation, which is controllable. So those are your two big pieces to look at. But there's a lot that goes into that, and even from let's say you're not even interested, you're not even thinking financial plan. You're like, I just need to talk to someone to how my investment should be managed. Well, the time frame is going to have a lot to do with that. If you walk in and say, I don't need a plan, here's my retirement stuff, tell me what stocks I should buy, tell me, what funds I should be in. Well, what's the plan for this account? Is this your retirement account for 40 years from now? Because if that's the case and you're 25, we're going to be really aggressive.
Yeah.
And if you're 65, we're going to be really conservative. You're not going to take risks.
Well, it's also important about the people's needs. Sometimes people come in and they're like, hey, I need a cash flow. I need this amount per month. Can you get it? Well, that portfolio is going to be very different than someone saying, I actually don't need this money now. This money can grow because I can still provide for myself.
Exactly. Well, just think about it. An ordinary 70-year-old might need a conservative portfolio generating cash flow. But if this ordinary 7-year-old is like, yeah, my Social Security is like
pension,
twice what
I
I pay.
pension.
I have Social Security, I have a pension, and it's like 3 times my monthly expenses. So I really just want this so that my grandkids inherit it, right? Well, now we might not actually be a conservative portfolio. We might be looking at an aggressive one because we don't care about cash flow. What you're looking for is it's purely a long-term play.
Exactly. You look at a 10,
grandkids.
15-year period, God willing, for the client. But
Exactly.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You could be sitting there, you're 30, and normally this would be an aggressive account, but you say, yeah, but this is a Roth IRA, and I want to buy a house in 5 years, and this is going to be my down payment. Well, we're not going to be super aggressive with something that you're going to pull in 5 years. Now, you're still going to be somewhat level of aggression, right? Because you don't need it immediately, but it's going to be a different portfolio. And as the 5 years approaches, it's going to become less and less risky. In other words, when we get to the point where you're 6 months out from potentially buying a house, it's not going to be 100% in stocks because you don't want to go buy a house. You don't want to go get pre-approved and you'd be like, yep, I have a $80,000 down payment, right? And then 6 months later, you go to buy the house, you call it up and say, well, It's actually 50 now because the stock market crashed, right?
That was pretty aggressive portfolio. Though.
Okay. Well, all right. What's a minus?
I know. I understand. I know.
A 30 out of 40 is a minus 30%. That
Yeah.
can easily happen in 6 months in a stock market crash.
That's true.
Right? A recession comes, you could easily see minus 20. So you could go from minus 20 would take you from 100 to 80.
Yeah.
Which promise now you'd have to go back to your lender and say, I don't have a $100,000 down payment that you calculated my mortgage based on. I only have 80. It's a totally different mortgage payment, totally different scenario, right? So when you reach that point where you're 6 months out and you're going to get a mortgage, you may still want that Roth IRA invested, but you want it invested very conservatively. In other words, what can we do so that it earns you
can
some
grow,
interest? You can grow, but it basically is not going to move much in price.
Exactly. So it's interesting. There's a lot of different goals, and kind of people really need to kind of think before you like see a financial advisor of kind of what the future holds for you, short term and long term.
Exactly. Well, and a good financial advisor can help you think about that. In other words, you may sit there and say, "I don't know what my goals are," but a good financial advisor can help you. All right.
Do
you like to travel?
Yeah.
Would you buy a house in 5 years? Do you have a car? Well, yeah. Do you have a car payment on it? No. It's an older car. Do you think you might need a new car in 7 years? Oh yeah, I'll probably need a new. So a good financial advisor will help you through that process of figuring out what it is that you may want or need. But it's important to know both short and long-term goals when you talk to a financial advisor or financial planner. Those are some key aspects. Financial planning, if you go for a plan, it should cover a lot of things. Sometimes people might just think, oh, a financial plan will tell me how aggressive I should be in my stock portfolio. It should also...
It's more comprehensive.
It should have an insurance component. In other words, your financial planner might not be selling you insurance. That we don't sell people life insurance. But we figure out in a financial plan, all right, you have two people, they're both earning money. What happens, God forbid, one of them dies? Do they have enough life insurance that the other one is still in good shape? Or because you don't want a scenario where your financial plan says, you're both good until 99. You run out of money at 99. But if person A passes away and that pension isn't there anymore, the other one runs out of money at 75. Well, that's a big problem. So you need to take into account survivorship analysis, and which might tell you, your financial planner might say, look, I don't sell insurance, but my plan is telling you, you need this much life insurance in order to, make sure that this spouse makes it till 90 if something happens to the other spouse. So you want those types of elements in your financial plan because there's going to be parts of your financial plan, life that don't revolve around your savings or your investments, but impact your insurance, your long-term care health insurance, your Medicare. A lot of people come in, don't know that Medicare is not free. They're like, when I turn 65, I'll go on Medicare. And I'm like, yeah, do you intend to, Part A is free, but do you intend to get the Medicare supplemental to do the gap? Oh yeah, that's to trust you. They'll probably, and you don't want to decide that quickly because you don't want to wait till later because there's a penalty for waiting. So there's things to think about, even though you might sit there and say, well, what does my health insurance have to do with my finances? Well, it has, from a financial planning standpoint, it has a lot to do with it.
And you need to also prepare for, God forbid, an emergency that might cost you, especially as you get older.
Exactly. Well, which is a way to think about. Sometimes people might say, well, all I need is, I talked to some guy and all I need is an annuity. Give them $100,000 and they'll guarantee me, $1,500 a month for the rest of my life, right? Well, you want your financial planner to read the annuity and make sure it's really for the rest of your life and not for 20 years. And then at age 85, it stops, right? But also B, can you take out more? What happens? In other words, if you would convert all your money to your annuity and you get $2,000 a month, right? What happens if there's an emergency? Can you get $50,000? Or can you not? Because if you can't, then you sit and say you have no emergency. So you can't turn your whole money, as attractive as it might sound, you can't turn your $200,000 into a guaranteed $1,000 a month for life. Because if you need 50, you can't get it. You have to borrow it.
I think that's the advantage of having a brokerage or Roth is that the money's still yours, no matter how much cash flow you have.
Exactly. So there's other ways to work it out where you might say, all right, well, what if I invest in income generating investments like stocks, bonds, dividend paying stocks, high yield bonds, are these things that could generate me $1,000 a month, but I still have the principal. So there's different things you can do to make sure that you're looking at a comprehensive picture and making the right decision. And I would say, talk to your financial advisor before you make decisions. Don't be that person that calls and says, Alex, I bought a new house for an investment property. Was this a good idea? And I'm like, well, if it wasn't a good idea, there's nothing I can do about it now. You bought the house already. In other words, don't be afraid to call your financial advisor. Like, they shouldn't be charging you for like a phone call.
Well, it's like Shannon with the doctor.
Exactly.
You can call and ask a question. You don't have to be like,
oh man,
no.
is this going to cost me?
Yes.
Right? So don't be afraid to call them. And if they don't know the answer, they probably can refer to someone that does. In other words, we're not accountants. But if we don't know the answer to an accounting question, like should I itemize or do a standard deduction, we can at least point you in the right direction by saying, well, here's what a standard deduction is. If you think you got a lot of itemizing, you should talk to an accountant and ask this question. Right? There's things that can be helped you with. Like if you go and say, should I sell my house and buy a new one? Well, we're like, and we can be like, look, we're not a mortgage broker, right? I can't tell you what the interest rate that you're going to be quoted by a mortgage company is. I can't tell you that this bank will lend to you. But I can figure out some raw numbers and say, if it's this interest rate and if it's this house, you can afford it. Right? So I can give you that answer, and then you can go to, and we can tell you these are some mortgage brokers in town. You can go to a mortgage broker and then find out what the actual rate that you can be quoted is. So there are answers you can get even if we can't give you the final answer. Like we may not be able to give you buy this house from this lender at this price, right? Because we can't control the lender and the real estate market. But we can tell you if it's this price and this interest rate, this is what you're looking at. So that's kind of what. So don't be afraid to make those calls.
It's good. All right. That was a lot of information, Alex. That was very nice.
I hope it was helpful.
Yeah. No, I think it was.
There you go. So great questions. Great questions, as always. As always, just a little.
They just popped into my head out of nowhere.
It's amazing how you do that. I'm always very impressed.
On the fly, yes.
Always very impressed. But I thought today was a great show. Learned a lot.
Was.
Great to have Shannon on, and I appreciate what she's doing in the community. Next week, we're going to have Matthias Jones going to be back for a monthly meetup with Matthias. He was here in January, now he'll be in February.
It's always great having
him on. I always learn so much. We talk about so many different things, entrepreneurship and life-work balance.
Ask me tough questions about my New Year's resolutions.
Ask you tough questions about your New Year's resolutions. So that'll be great to have him on. Appreciate everyone who tuned in. Dr. Elizabeth Irby was watching the show this morning.
No.
So
did she see her
thanks for joining
Mr.
in.
Guten Morgen or?
But hopefully she didn't see me forget how to say that it was such an obvious one too. Monica knows that she wrote in Guten Morgen is the correct way. So I just blanked on that.
I remembered. I was like, this is such an easy one.
I blanked on it, so that's okay. Hopefully I'll be forgiven for getting that one wrong. But thanks for everyone who tuned in. Kevin Higgins, great question. Thanks for tuning in. Obviously, Monica, thanks for tuning in. Rosalia, thanks for tuning in. So just appreciate everyone who watches the show. Makes it possible. Appreciate, of course, Judah behind the camera, making us all look good, making everything, helping Judah Derry put together our nice banner.
Yes.
For some Today Mañana, of course, appreciate Emergent Financial Services, Castle Hill Cider, Matthias Young Realty Credit, Sirius Insurance. Thank you all for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you for being with me.
Yes, I just have the quick thing, too. Yeah. If you notice the thing, also it forms an X. It's like Xavier.
Like X-Man for Xavier. There's a Today Mañana X. I see it.
Judah did that on purpose to get Xavier.
Exactly.
We put lines now through this way.
Nicely done. Done. The subliminal messaging. The X-Man is always on.
His presence is always felt even when he's not here.
Even when he's not here. So, of course, love being on with you.
Happy to be here, Alex.
Looking forward to next week. So I can't remember if it's you and me or Dave or me, but we'll find out.
We'll keep people in suspense. That's the idea, right?
It's like, in suspense. Exactly. So you'll just have to tune in next week to find out whether I'll be on with Xavier or with Michael.
Or maybe even Nicholas.
Or Nicholas. He may have made a surprise appearance. You never know. You never know. So we look forward to that. We look forward to seeing you all. But until that time, stay warm, enjoy this weekend, and hasta mañana.